Good afternoon to you. It is Saturday, December 9th at 4:12 p.m. Your Purdue Boilermakers are now what, 8-1? Yeah, 9-1. 9-1 after beating Alabama 92-86 up in Toronto, up in Zach Edey land. Zach Edey brought a big contingent, but sadly the game wasn't super well attended. I noticed there were some empties there at the end, quite a few empties at the end. But it had all the feel and look of an NCAA tournament game. Purdue had to fight through the fight against themselves. Honestly, they dug themselves holes both in the first and the second half that they climbed out of. I'll talk about it here in a second, but first let me thank our friends at Home Field Apparel. I'm wearing a shirt from Home Field Apparel. You can get one too. They even sell this shirt right now. Enter Boiled23 at checkout when you go to homefieldapparel.com for your cart with lots of goodies and go home happy. Well, you're not at a retail store. But when you're on campus, you can also see another set of our friends, the good folks at AJ's. Adam and Jake will hook you up, as well as the whole staff. You can get some good stuff to eat, some good stuff to drink, burgers, beef, beer. That's AJ's. AJ's on Vine, eataj's.com. So that's a good win, guys and girls. That is a good win. The Stars were out today in Toronto. Zach Edey played very well. Braden Smith played incredibly well down the end of the game, and his name Mark Spears, I think. Spears from Alabama had 35 points. So Edey and Spears, I'm going to get into the stats deeper here in a second, but I know they both had 35 points, so they kind of neutralized each other. Interesting way they both got there, of course, very differently from one another. Spears was bombing threes, and Purdue had no answer for him, especially in the first half. I haven't seen the breakdown of his points in the first and the second half, but he was hitting everything, absolutely everything in the first half. Purdue wasn't even getting a hand in his face much of the time. Purdue tried to, they really were working hard on taking away the drive. And in doing so, they left open the three, which is kind of a decision you have to make when you don't have the quickest guys up top. There's another decision they could make. They won't make it, which is throw a 1-3-1 at them. That team, to me, again, a 1-3-1 versus a team that loves to drive, get at the hoop, and shoot threes. Boy, that hits them right where it hurts. But it's not going to happen. And so if it's not going to happen, what you have to do is you have to find a neutralizer, because we've seen this twice now in a 10-day period or a week period. It seems like Northwestern game was a long time ago. It's a week ago. Northwestern really ran some very similar things. They would drive, dish out. They were more into driving and dishing out than just kind of the movement that Alabama has away from the ball is pretty incredible. But a zone for a couple of minutes would have been good. And it's not going to happen. I know it's wishful thinking to say that. And it's like throwing gasoline on the fire for many of you guys here, many of you Purdue fans. But the big thing is Purdue made tons of plays down at the end of down the stretch. Purdue played really, really tough, both defense, offense, in the second half. In the first half, I think they were down by 12 on two different occasions, I believe. In the second half, they got down by either 8 or 9 points before kind of finding their legs and getting back into the game. Edey was an absolute horse, of course. Didn't mean to do that. Mr. Ed. Edey was a beast, and Alabama couldn't do anything about it. They tried to do everything they could. Edey, I think, fouled out one Alabama player, left two others. Maybe he fouled out two. But he fouled out, I'll find out in a second. But he fouled out at least one, and he put Alabama in the position where they were on their heels all day. They couldn't do anything against him. They could not stop him. It frustrated Nate Oates so much that he threw a little hissy fit, got a tech. And then after that tech, for the next 7 or 8 minutes, Alabama didn't have a foul called on him. It was a 6-0 foul count, as multiple people, thank you guys and girls, on Twitter told me. So it went from being Alabama playing a physical game, trying to beat up on Edey to stop him, which is understandable, by the way. I get it. What do you do when you don't have a guy taller than 6'9", 6'10", and you're playing a guy who's a mountain that moves really quickly? But Alabama did everything they could to try to stop him. It's frustrating when you see a guy that physically dominant. But Alabama did not change any of their the way they play the game at that point. But the refs changed the way it was called, which always happens, and I think is the biggest frustration for any college basketball fan, in modern college basketball. Let me look at the stats real quick, and then we'll talk a little bit together, all of us. I see a lot of my good buddies are here. Great to see you guys. So Purdue wins 92-86. On the other side, Sears just led the way, 35 points on the other side. He went 8 of 16 from 3. In the first half, I believe Alabama only shot the ball, not non-3-point shot, twice, and they made it. Made it both times. They were 2 for 2. But they were just absolutely on fire in the first half. The second half, they were still good. Obviously, still, shooting above 40%, I think, is the goal of a team. They shot 41% as a team, but they got a little cold for about a 7-8 minute period, and that did not have anything to do with Zach Edey manhandling their bigs and not being able to be stopped. One interesting part of that game to me was Edey was locked up with one of their bigs. Can't remember who it was. And yeah, he did foul out. Two of their bigs fouled out. Pringle, who was, he deserved a tech in the first half for first getting in Edey's face after fouling him and then shoving Braden Smith out of the way. But that didn't earn him a tech. Of course not. So he should have fouled out earlier, but he was one of the guys that got fouled out. In the second half, another one of their bigs was locked up with Edey. Edey said, well, he was holding me down. I couldn't move. A hook and hold. He asked the refs to look at it and watch it, and they went and looked at it, and they came back, and they called the hook and hold on Edey. Hummel was in a very equitable mood at that point, pointed out that Edey did actually have the Alabama player locked, but it was equal lock, I would have said. But sure, okay, that's a rough deal to go in and ask for it and then get the tech yourself. And it tightened the game way up. I mean, I think it got down to a 1 or 2 point deficit again, and then it came down to Purdue making plays and really Braden Smith making plays. So Zach Edey scores 35 points, has 7 rebounds, 2 assists. Excellent day. Earned 3 fouls. And then Braden Smith, though, 27 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds, a steal, and just 1 turnover. Incredibly solid game, incredibly sound decision-making down the stretch. In the first half, in the beginning of the second half, when Purdue was starting to scratch and claw back into the game, that was all on Braden Smith, making really good decisions, reading pick and rolls, reading picks, rolling off the pick, making shots on the run. And then in the end of the second half, Smith was doing an excellent job driving in, drawing a man off of Edey, creating a mismatch, which is a one-on-one for Edey, and dumping it to Edey, where Edey would just terrify and terrorize, not terrify. I'm sure the rims were scared, but more terrorizing than terrifying the rim by just almost ripping it off of its bolts. Great game by Smith, though, and I really believe, I said this to the BS guys off of here in a thread, to me, if Purdue's going to get over the hump in March, April, and I mean get over the hump, I mean get to the Final Four, it's going to take, number one, Smith playing games like this, and number two, Miles Colvin or Cam Heide or both coming along significantly, because you're going to need guys who are a little more athletic, who can be another body on the floor to stop dynamic guards. Most teams in modern college basketball are built around dynamic guard play, and Purdue is built around Edey's play, right? Edey's back to the basket play. By the way, Edey had a couple plays today where he got the ball facing the basket, and I think that's got to be the scariest thing in the world. If you're a big man, you see Edey coming at you full bore. He had 2 of them, I think, where it was off the bounce that he dunked, and those were just flat out nasty. And he's had that in a couple games now where he's dunked from pretty far out, showing his athleticism. I know he's just tall, but he also can move pretty well for a really, really big, tall guy. The stats don't show the whole story here, because if you look at guys like, Lance Jones was solid. He had a big breaking of the press. He also, right before, threw the ball away. It was a sloppy pass. But the next time down, when Alabama was throwing the press at Purdue, and it looked like this is perfect position for Purdue to give this game away, we've all seen it. Instead, Jones broke the press on the dribble and then came down. He went 1 for 2 from the free throw line. I think that's one of those things I really would love to see Purdue get away from missing important free throws. They're all important, but they still went 86% from the free throw line. It's an excellent game from the free throw line. Can't complain too much, but missing that one felt a little worse for me. Kind of made me clam up a little bit. because there was still a little bit of time. And then, so Jones, he's the perfect complement to this team as it stands. On top of that, I was really, really impressed with Caleb Furst. When Caleb Furst was in the game, his athleticism, his quickness, his ability to get to loose balls, get rebounds was a huge boon for Purdue. Furst only finishes with 2 points, but he has 6 boards, 2 assists, and a steal. He played a huge game. Kaufman-Wren looks to me like he's struggling a little bit. And I think it's going to happen, especially against quicker teams. Alabama is quick. I think by anybody's measure, Alabama's quick. But Furst was struggling a bit. Kaufman was struggling a bit. Kaufman-Wren and Furst was very, very good off the bench. Also, Miles Colvin had a couple huge plays. He had a steal. Let's see if he got credit for it. He had 2 steals. One of them was a huge steal with right around 5 minutes left. That was a really important possession for Purdue. Maybe it was inside 4, because 4 minutes was kind of the pivotal point. So it was inside 4 minutes, I believe. I'm going to go with that. So 2 steals, and then he had a big 3. Let's see, he went 1 for 1 from 3, and he had a big one where everybody was drawn into the middle. Smith did it again, I believe, and they kicked it out to Colvin for the 3. Gillis played big, another quiet game. And that's the thing. If you're just reading the box score, you're not getting the whole story. And I know some of you probably weren't able to watch the game for different reasons. But Gillis, not a whole lot to talk about here. 5 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds. But Gillis had a couple boards that were just absolutely essential to keeping a possession alive. Very impressive. Morton came in at the end of the game as a defensive stopper, kept Sears from scoring, and every possession mattered. That was like Alabama's last real possession. Kept Sears from really getting a good look at all. Those little bits of defensive stop. I mean, if you have a guy that's fresh leg, because Morton doesn't play a lot anymore. I think he's usually playing, I think his average is 8 to 10 minutes a game, and he's playing less than that right now, I believe. But coming off the bench and having a guy that's that long who will be in the right place is a huge deal. Purdue really needs that third guard to step up. I mean, I can't stress that enough. When I look at these teams that, like today, this Alabama game felt every bit like the Purdue-Tennessee game in the Sweet 16 in Louisville a couple years ago, had that intensity. It was back and forth. Both teams were scoring, not at will, but when they got hot, Alabama did it from outside, and Purdue just got into tremendous rhythm at minutes at a time where they would get to the hoop. They would get to the hoop, and then Braden Smith would break it up with a 3, or Miles Colvin would break it up with a 3. Had all that, the feel of an NCAA tournament game, all the intensity, all the pace. But Purdue really is going to need, I cannot stress this enough, Purdue is going to need one of those guards. I don't think Lawyer has the tools to do it. I think Lawyer is important. We've seen it just in the last 2 weeks when Lawyer plays big on offense, when he's going to the hoop. It's a big deal. But Lawyer's going to have a hard time off the bounce for teams like Alabama. He just is. And there's a lot of teams that are going to be in that round of 16, if Purdue can get there, that are just like Alabama, right? Very, very tough teams. I mean, Alabama, they're out of the top 25 now. They probably won't be back in the top 25 at least for a couple of weeks, but they'll be back in. They're a very good team. But that's a team that was relatively high ranked. I think they were in the teens just a couple of weeks ago. And man, my misspeaks are bad today. I apologize to all of you. But this just seems to me like something Purdue's going to have to do, and I think it's got to be Colvin or Heidi stepping up and becoming that third guard who can be dynamic, even if it's off the bench and Lawyer's still starting. I don't care, but Colvin or Heidi are going to be huge, and we got to see how they develop over the next month. If you want to look for something, that's the biggest thing you can look for Purdue. You know, a lot of people have said, "Oh, just get me to March." But I would say, if you're looking for one thing to kind of just watch intently, let's watch how these guards develop. Watch how these young guys develop, because that, to me, is going to define their success come March and April. A couple other stats, like I said, Purdue 86% from the free throw line, 3-point line 44%, perfectly solid. That's what you want to see. And then rebounding, Alabama, man, I'll tell you, in the first half, I think they had the rebounding lead. Purdue wins, edges them out 6 rebounds, wins 38-32 on the glass, and that was an important battle. That's a big win. I mean, I watching it, I got fully cranked up in this one. Watching it by myself. Was abandoned by my family today because they were doing important things. But I wish I didn't get that cranked up, but I was pretty into this one, and it felt like a game later in the year. So thanks to you guys who are tuning in live, and thanks to you who are listening on delay as well. Let's see what you guys have to say. Boiler Bruh 82 BTFU, right on, big win. Noel M23, happy Saturday to you as well. Broxton Davis, let's go. Braden Smith is a dog, Noel, and I don't know. I bet we interact on Twitter, and I just don't know your username. But Braden Smith is, man, he is every bit of all Big Ten point guard type guy, at least, and his ceiling's way above that. So I got a question for you. I asked the Boiled Sports guys this question: which one would you rather take? Those of you who are a couple years older, because it's not very recent, but would you rather have Braden Smith as a sophomore or Aaron Kraft as a senior? Kraft was awfully good at Ohio State, and it seemed like good things happened when Kraft was on the court. He was one of those guys who really made everybody else look better. He knew when to shoot. He didn't shoot as much as Smith. He didn't have the ability to create on offense like Smith does, but great passer, great defender, smart player. So just question for you guys you can answer. Ted Berkey said, survived that incredibly hot start from Alabama. Got a huge win right on. I mean, that Alabama was up 8-0 right away just from the jump, and then then extended it out, and then Purdue fought back and then extended it out again. Purdue showed a lot of fight. Alabama was on. A friend of mine who watches Alabama a lot, he says they have a real problem. They don't stay as hot from three in the second half. Sure enough, he was right. They weren't freezing cold though. So Handel Jones notes that I'm rocking an FDU shirt. That's correct. This shirt, I had this on today for a reason because I was like, okay, this feels like a tournament atmosphere. It feels like a tournament type day. Kind of looks like a gray, cloudy. I mean, Indiana, we don't get a ton of beautiful sunny days in around the Sweet 16, but I think this to me is exactly the type of opponent Purdue will play in the Sweet 16. Had a weird flashback to the time when Glenn Robinson played Alabama in Lexington, Kentucky. And that goes back, I think Purdue was in the Sweet 16 there. That Alabama team, I think I've said it before, is led by Sean Pecklove. They were athletic. They were not like this Alabama team. They were not relying on the three as much, but they had some guys that could bang inside, and Robinson rose to the occasion. So Derek, oh wait, I jumped ahead. Need to be in verse says, great test, W on the road, and neutral court. Those neutral court wins are huge. This Purdue team has a resume that's long enough for 2 seasons already, and we're not even to January. So amazing scheduling. A week from now, you got Arizona and Indianapolis. It doesn't get easy. It doesn't get easier for Purdue. But hopefully these tests will lead to something bigger. I think that's all we all care about. I think we're all on the same page there. Ted Berkey, whose house? Zach's house. Absolutely, that's the house Zach built. Not really, but it was neat to see all those people in Zach's shirt, and his mom was there. It was cool. Good for Zach. He deserved to have a huge game. I said this to Handel. The thing I really wanted to see was Zach go off today more than anything. I think you guys can predict this. When Zach goes off, I wonder what his Purdue's record. I think when he scores over 20, I'd say 28. I think Purdue wins every time. I think. Nope, because they didn't win versus Northwestern. I'm wrong about that, aren't I? Yeah, I'm wrong about that. So there you go. I don't know much. Derek Mulliken says, I think we have a real issue with Lawyer. He's had one good game this year, 4 points, 4 rebounds tonight. Just can't compete against these better players. Colvin, Heidi, Morton, all better. I'm not gonna rule him out and rule his season out yet, Derek. I do see the reason for concern. Okay, I agree on some level. I don't want to. I just have a hard time this early in the season. I know we're about a third of the way through, but I have a hard time saying that. And I like Lawyer. I like a lot of what he does, but on offense, it's the troublesome thing, right? Let's just be really honest, okay? Athletic, he is what he is, and I don't think that's a problem. He's just He's not as athletic as Colvin or Heidi. The real problem for me is that Lawyer does not hit a high enough percentage of his shots for a guy. That's what he should be doing. He should be the guy. Smith, if he's going to pound the lane, get in there. If Edey's not there, be able to kick it out to Lawyer, hits a wide open three. And that to me is the most disconcerting thing. So I think there's a fair reason to be concerned. I don't think he's a sophomore too. He's a young sophomore. And I think we have a tendency, everybody has a tendency to believe that everybody needs to be great right out of the gate. The problem is if somebody's not great and they're supposed to be great, obviously that leads to all sorts of things, the transfer portal and all that. And I want Lawyer to stay all 4 years at Purdue. I want him to be an important part of Painter turning the corner, crashing through his ceiling that he's built. But yeah, there's reason for concern. So that was a lot. That was a long answer. Ron Gable, good for you to wear your favorite shirt. Yeah, this is a comfortable shirt, Ron. That's exactly right. No, I think, like I told you, I love an underdog. But I am very mindful of that day. I'm mindful of it all season. And I think every little thing Purdue can do to get themselves to the point where and they all have, they've faced this like the right way. They know that their legacy is going to be defined in March and April, hopefully. Mr. Pepsi 313 says, "Can we just play all non-con games?" No kidding. How about just not play Northwestern and Rutgers? I mean, that's my Christmas wish. Gentry BN says, "Good win. Not sure what to say about our lack of composure at the end of games." I don't know. Today, I don't know if I'd say lack of composure at the end of the game. There are some teams get frantic, right? And it's natural when it gets helter-skelter to have some letdowns. That's a good Alabama team. They threw a lot at Purdue there. Bigger problem for me is the open threes early in the game. That bothers me more than anything. I don't have as much problem with what happened at the end of the game. In fact, I think Purdue handled it pretty well. They closed them out. Braden Smith, like I said off of here, Braden Smith's ability to make plays at the end of the game, this is what that's the Braden Smith Purdue needs to beat all these good teams. And it can't just be a big one. It can't just be Zach Edey and then a bunch of Smurfs. It's got to be Zach Edey plus Braden Smith making plays plus Jones making plays when given the ability or given the opportunity. And he didn't get a ton of opportunities tonight. He wasn't. I think Alabama literally wanted to take him away because they saw how important he is. When he gets in rhythm, when Jones gets in rhythm, it's school's out for most teams, right? But it's tough to take Smith out of rhythm since he's got the ball in his hands and he's so deadly with it. So I don't think Purdue's composure is the problem. The bigger problem I have is guarding the three early in the game. And bad starts, I hate bad starts. I would like to see Purdue with a different lineup to start the game. I've said this, but it's not going to matter what I think. So, Chris R., honestly, I thought Purdue adjusted pretty well defensively after the barrage in the first 10 minutes. I'd be interested to see a 10-minute split of scoring. Yeah, I agree. I think they survived really well. And the funny thing is, as well as Alabama shot, Purdue was still right in the game. A lot of Purdue fans, including Jay Money and others that I'm on text threads with friends that said, I love Purdue's position they're in to be down by just a few after what Alabama threw at them. I didn't feel that good because I was like, why do we say the barrage has stopped? We just don't know, right? And so I think Purdue they showed a lot of resiliency and fight, though. That's a big deal. Yeah, Derek Mulligan says the same thing. Games are hectic, and they are helter-skelter at the end of everything. The best way to keep them from being hectic at the end of the game is have a bigger lead. And Purdue's a good enough team to say, yep, let's press out. Let's put our elbows out and make the lead bigger. Patrick Gottschall says Sears was giving off Boogie vibes. Yeah, he was. That's a very good comparison. I think that's Handel said that too on a text. That's a very good comparison. He was white hot. So Judith Johnson says 19 threes. Man, that's a ridiculous number. 19 threes. Yeah. It all starts in the first half. Brent Williams, I think they were fine. They didn't try to play Zach and TKR together. So I think it was fine when they didn't. Yeah, I agree. Zach and TKR together does not work well. I agree. I don't love it. I don't like that lineup. I've been clear about that. Let's see. Brent Williams. Oh, nope, it's the same thing. Let's go down here. I'll get down a little bit here. Joe Inslee says Lawyer and TKR struggled together against Bama's athleticism. Painter made good adjustments. Colvin got extended minutes. Yeah, that's a really good point, Joe. Is not only did I say Colvin was making the plays, but he was in at the right times. He was in the right positions. He didn't have to guard Sears, for instance, right? That's a big deal. Painter made very good adjustments. Lawyer will have good games again, and he'll probably have a good game in the next 2 games. Just if you're into gambling. I think Lawyer will have a big game in the next 2 games. I just think he will. Maybe not against Arizona. So let's say the next game. I just think he's due for one. But I think a lot of teams would struggle against the guards from Alabama. I think they're a very good team. Like I said, I think they'll be a top 15 team in a couple weeks again. I think they'll scratch and claw back in the top 25. They're a good team. Adam P. says, couldn't watch the game today. Went to the Indiana State game with a friend. Knew I had to tune in the BS for a good recap. Glad I can do it, Adam. Glad you're here. Let's see. Shane Hinkle. Kudos to Morton on defense yet again. This is the role. He's pretty darn fine. Yeah, I agree, Shane. That's what I was saying. He didn't have a lot of opportunities even to be a defensive stopper, but he was in at the end of the game, which shows what Painter thinks of him. His length, you can't discount that. Long arms. He's got the ability to be in the right place at the right time. He's just not quite as athletic as you wish. That's it. He doesn't have Heidi's athleticism. Heidi is. I'd like to, it'd be fun to see the raw numbers, like what these guys look like in a 40-yard dash, vertical leap, that sort of thing. I know those pieces of information kind of trickle out at different times, but it just feels like a guy like Morton is doing a lot with grit. I know I sound stereotypical. I don't mean to, but he is. He does a lot with grit, and he does a lot with. He understands the game. So let's see. Andy in Colorado said, I thought the Sweet 16 game with Glenn Robinson was against Kansas. Yes, you're right, Andy. Good correction. They were both in Lexington. So it went Alabama. Yep, you're right. My fault. Alabama. That's incredible. That was a road Purdue had for a number 1 seed. Alabama, who wasn't this Alabama team, but they were good. Alabama in Lexington, Kansas in Lexington, and then I was at the Duke game in Knoxville. That was sad. Still sad. Let's see. Yep. Kevin Pass says we beat Kansas in the Sweet 16. Yeah. Wendell Polly, Braden Smith growing up before our eyes. Yeah, Wendell, I agree. Braden Smith is becoming. He's becoming the dude, and I think that's the thing. Next year, if you want to, I don't want anyone to do this. I know some Purdue fans are already doing this, or they're moved on altogether. Whatever. Don't look past this season, but next season, I know you've got some beasts coming in, but I think this is Braden Smith's team next year, so that'll be a lot of fun to watch that. Poverty 6 Spec says wipe the smugness off of Sears' face. Yeah. Sears, not only did he make shots, but he made shots, and then he let you know he made shots. He's a good player. He's a good player, and you're right. Is it cockiness or arrogance when you're actually that good? I don't know. It's just like it's confidence, I guess, because he earned it. He played well, and the Boogie comparisons are right there. And Boogie had a swagger to him. I don't remember Boogie taunting guys all that much, other than IU. He did taunt IU. But more of it was kind of like the flexing or mean mugging, whatever. Sears seemed to direct it at Purdue. But that's okay. It's okay. He earned it. He earned the ability to be confident. He played a hell of a game. Let's see. Is Alabama more athletic than Arizona? Shoot. I'm watching Arizona play right now versus Wisconsin. They're up by 20. At Arizona, by the way. Wisconsin was another team that was very hot. I think Arizona is big. That's the thing. This is playing into what we as Purdue fans may be a little more comfortable with. This is going to be more, if I were a betting man, a guessing man, they got a lot of points right now. But they play a lot more physical style of basketball, and they're a bigger, stronger team. They're like Tennessee was years ago. Maybe not like the Tennessee this year. Tennessee this year plays with the same philosophy they always have, but they weren't as big. This is a big Arizona team. So I think Alabama is more athletic and quick. Alabama, they had problems all over the court. Their quickness was their strength, their quickness, and their lack of size was their weakness, right? Because Purdue just made them pay in the lane, the Edey specifically. But I think this is a funny thing. If you remember back before Zach Edey, which every one of you on here does, Purdue still worked through the center, right? They still work through the center, and that's what they're probably going to do. Maybe we'll see a difference next year, but TKR is going to be the starter next year. He's going to be a big, strong, presence, but they have 2 7-footers behind him. So, yeah, this isn't new. It is new that you have a guy that actually makes everything, right? I mean, Edey had a couple misses. When he misses, it's so noteworthy because he just doesn't miss very often. But, man, he hated those rims in that Toronto arena. Hated them. He took it out on him. Lawyer had 2 steals on defense. Thought he had a decent game. Okay, that's 2 steals is good. I don't think he was a good matchup at all or Alabama was a good matchup for him. I think he struggled mightily. And I saw when Lawyer's struggling, one thing you see is Lawyer on the floor a lot, right? Because he's getting knocked down, getting knocked around. He's not really playing the game he wants to play. And that's the way I saw it. So we can disagree. I think 2 steals is great, and Purdue defense was good. Lawyer's very good in passing lanes. That's where Colvin's steal was as well, in the passing lane. So, but I think Lawyer was struggling. But that's just my perspective. Yep. Hope everybody can go to the Indy game in Arizona. I'm not going to be there. But let's see. Next up, Purdue plays a tune-up before they go to Arizona, and I don't know who it is. I don't have the schedule in front of me. But I'm going to call it a day. Appreciate everybody being here. And that's a big win. That's a fun win. Hope you enjoyed it too. And we'll talk to you soon. God bless you. Hammer down. See ya.